DRM-free, no micro purchasing, no always online, no pay to win, for the day.
Good evening, I'm the Game Tutor, and tonight we're going to be grading the Book of Unwritten Tales 2. Now, the original game was released a few years back and has been making the bundle circuit for a little while now, and it's well worth picking up. And I really enjoyed this game, so was really excited for the release of the sequel. Now, unlike the majority of the current output of Telltale, the Book of Unwritten Tales 2 is an old school point and click adventure game that reminds me a lot of the Simon the Sorcerer and Discworld games from the 90s. Well, let me start off by saying, just to put it out there, if you like traditional, funny adventure games, then you'll really like the Book of Unwritten Tales 2. It's well written, it looks great, and it really makes you care about the characters. Now, the writing in the game is very British, much like the Simon the Sorcerer games, but I don't feel this would be lost on our American viewers. Now, the Book of Unwritten Tales 2 is set in the land of Advantasia, and you control four main characters. Wilbur Weathervane, who's a gnome-made teacher, Princess Evo, an elf, Nate, who's a human, and Critter, who's a kind of purple, almost Cookie Monster Muppet-like creature. Now, you take control of each of these characters at different points in the game, and the events generally follow those events from the first game. If you've never played the first game, however, I don't really feel this will be lost on you, as everything's explained pretty quickly. Now, an epidemic has struck the land, and throughout the course of the game, all of the main characters are slowly brought together. The storyline is solid, if a little predictable, but like most of the best animated films, predictability does not necessarily mean that the story isn't fun and engaging. Generally, puzzles are pretty sensible. There are a few ones that don't make the most amount of sense, but overall I generally progress through at a pretty reasonable pace. One of the biggest issues I had with the game was there are a few instances where you have to click on an item a few times and scroll through several sort of dialogue trees and seemingly fob off statements before finally interacting with the object as you either hope or expected. Now, while this isn't a game breaker, it is something which you don't normally expect in adventure games, and something which did kind of lead me to get stuck a few times when I didn't really need to. Now, there were a couple of instances where I did get stuck and had to rub everything in my inventory against everything in the world. This didn't very happen often, and certainly didn't happen as much as it did back in the 90s with said Simon and Discworld and all those types of games. One thing that is really good is you're helped with the space bar. A quick press of the space bar reveals everything in the environment you can interact with, and this means overlooking silly things is a bit of a thing of the past. Generally, the game looks and runs beautifully, but there were a few issues with the game's very generous 15 to 20 hour playthrough. A couple of times when going into a zoom section where you sort of go to interact with something in more detail, my character would get stuck and be unable to interact, talk or leave the scene, basically meaning I had to restart or reload a previous save file. In one case, even reloading my autosave file didn't fix this, as it had autosaved after the bug had happened. And while this wasn't game breaking, I'm sure this is something that could be sorted out afterwards, but it did mean that I lost about 2 hours of gameplay. And I could imagine myself, if I wasn't reviewing this, giving up in anger if this happened more than once. My advice is manually save regularly. Overall, however, the Book of Unwritten Tales 2 is possibly the best adventure title I've played in the last 20 years, and it easily sits alongside Monkey Island and Simon the Sorcerer as some of the best adventure games of all time. While not perfect, I can't recommend the game highly enough for fans of the genre, and I cannot wait for the hopefully inevitable Book of Unwritten Tales 3.
Can you carry me as far as Seastone?
We make a stand, join our adventure, boost our sails. The Book of Unwritten Tales.
If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please also join up with us on Steam and our social media pages. Come visit us at www.thegametutor.co.uk and also please come and be our patron on Patreon for a chance at cool prizes every month.